Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast, episode number 143 for your Thursday night, February 5th, 2026. Thank you so much for making it part of your week, and I will thank each and every one of you guys for jumping on with us here on the podcast. Tonight is going to be a lot of fun. We've had Aaron on before. It seems like maybe in the first 10 or 15 episodes, it's been quite a while, and we're pumping out 2 a week now, having a great time. So glad you're back with us. I hope you're doing well, Aaron. We'll get to chat here in just a few minutes. But Darren, hope you're doing well. And as always, we have to give a shout out to our proud sponsors over at Nashville Tax Solutions.
Hey, if you're dealing with tax issues, maybe you're behind on filings, or you got hit with a lien, it happens. I want to tell you about Nashville Tax Solutions because these folks know their stuff and they actually care about helping you fix it. I've heard from people right in Palm Bay or Fort Pierce who said Chris Bennett and his team turned a financial nightmare into peace of mind. That's the kind of help you want to have on your side. So if tax stress is keeping you up, it's not healthy. It's just not. And it's not something that you need to live through. All right. So what you need to do is call 855-627-4829. Visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com or email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Nashville Tax Solutions, real people with real relief.
Thank you, Darren. And each and every one of you guys, I see there's about 12, 13 of you guys on so far right now. So thank you for jumping on. Having a little, hearing a little comment about a little bit of double talking, will echo. So let us know in the comments if you're hearing that as well. I'll kind of do some things on my end just to kind of check on that. But yes, thank you, Christopher Bennett and team. And the Super Bowl, of course, is coming up this Sunday. And, I guess before we do anything else, of course, I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Aaron Edwards Hall. Hopefully you can hear me pretty well and let me know if, like I said, the double talk is continuing. But thank you for joining us. How are you doing this Thursday?
Still hearing talk, but I do know it's done.
Let's see here. Let's try it one more time. Okay.
There we go. All right. So
okay.
I'm great, man. I'm great. What's that?
It's funny because I'm not hearing anything on my end, any kind of echo or anything. But
no, I heard him pretty clear.
Yeah.
I heard Aaron very clear.
Maybe I can.
So what you could do, Aaron, try. Sometimes this will resolve it. If you want to get out and get back in, sometimes that does resolve it. We'll try that, and then we'll go from there.
I'll do that. I'll log out.
No worries. Okay. Darren, as we're waiting for Aaron to get back, the big story today was the Tampa Bay Rays had posted that in addition to now being able to watch the Tampa Bay Rays on MLB Network without having blackouts, which is super, super cool, especially for Rays fans. You can watch it straight on the MLB app. But now also today, the stadium information is coming out. You can start putting deposits down for as low as $20 to reserve your seat for the new stadium. So it's still not 100% etched in stone, but it definitely feels like it's finally moving in the right direction.
So it should be open on time.
Which would be what, 28 or the stadium itself is still opening for 2025 or 2026, but right. I'm talking about the new stadium.
The new stadium. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to show you. You ready? Are you ready? Give me some like dun dun dun.
Dun 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 dun. Okay. Oh wait, I can do that. Hold on. We have that. Oh, hold on. I got to hit the right appropriate button for that one. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, there's the gong. That'll work too.
I'll take that. Okay. And again, we didn't have planned to open up talking about the Rays, but here it is.
Yeah, you never know. Let's see. Looks like he's back. Okay, that worked. Okay. If you want to, if you want to try speaking again, I think you should be better now. Can you hear us good?
I can hear you guys, but it's still like it's a lag. So
like watching an old Godzilla movie.
Yeah, that's what it's like. Yeah, I'm hearing myself right now, but it's okay. So I'll just try to keep up. Oh,
Okay.
I'm laughing at the old Godzilla movie right now.
It sometimes when it doesn't happen too often, sometimes it could be just an internet issue on someone's end that just causes a little bit of lag. I do see a question.
Listen, I'm sure it's me. You guys have been doing this for a while. I'm sure it's my laptop. It
No
is
problem.
Mac, but
there was a question in the chat about we were just chatting while you were getting back on about the new Tampa Bay Rays Stadium that finally seems like it's going to actually legit be a thing after years. So this is what it looks like. And the location is going to be on the Dale Mabry campus of Hillsborough College in Tampa, actually. So it's still proposed and everything like that, but they are starting to already take deposits for season ticket holders and things and such. So it looks beautiful. I think it fits 31,000 people. So hopefully if everything goes according to plan, it could be as soon as 28 or 29 that things could go. It says Mike is talking without moving his lips. Okay, well, all right. Well, we'll see. Darren, you can still hear me on your end?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes there's kerfuffles, and we can't. Nothing we can do. I don't know.
Well, see, it's interesting because you mentioned what 31,000 it holds.
Yeah, 31,000.
In the old days, right? They used to be all have umpa tanks, 50, 60, 70,000 for a baseball game. Now it's that whole facade of being a more intimate setting, but it's more about, the restaurants and some of the other things that they have at these games. People can conduct deals or whatever. 31,000 sounds nice, but actually, I guess it's okay. But even with the Mets, 45,000. Come on, you and I used to go to games. 55,000 on a June 5th game. Thursday night. Let's go.
Yeah, I think maybe there's erring on the side of caution, but then
Yeah.
how do you add additional seating once they fill? They want it to look full on TV, I guess. But he dropped off to try to get back on one more time, so hopefully things will work out. Again, it could be on his end, so hopefully it works itself out. But yeah, so but the MLB, that's huge. I think 13 teams now are going to be able to have that ability where they won't be blacked out. So
that's great.
Fantastic. Because I think it's usually a 2 hour after the final pitch before you can have access to the game itself. So, it is what it is with that. But so, okay. So I apologize, Aaron, on your end. Hopefully,
I figured out what it is. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I had it playing. And it was coming through the mic.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that you got that it was playing on the other side, and then I'm trying to talk on this side. So I feel like I'm 98 years old right now. I can't believe I did that. So I apologize, guys. That was all me.
That's okay. No, it's common because if it's playing too nearby to where you are, you'll have that echo. There was one night I had Aiden and Eileen on because again, we met an artist, a performer from one of our recent Royal Caribbean cruises named Trent John, who I don't know if you've run into him yet, but awesome artist. And we became really good friends on the cruise. And so we had him on the podcast. So all three of us, me, Aiden, and Eileen, were in the same house, but we were trying to maneuver as far away from each other as possible without the echo. And so he found out that it kept happening because someone had the podcast on a device also. So I think that's what it was. So,
yeah. I just love you guys that much. I wanted to hear you over and over.
Yes, you got to get the extra likes and subscribes. Yeah. But Aaron, we just hit super exciting. We just hit 4,000 subscribers just a couple days, about a week ago, a little
nice.
Short ago. So super, super cool. It's growing and exponentially and starting to put out some additional content. So super, super exciting. So I'll kind of kick it in here. So you mentioned we have a lot to cover here, so we'll keep it to our normal size stream. But so you had mentioned earlier offline that you just actually got off a ship, and you're. Now I have to ask, when you flew, please tell me you did not fly Spirit Airlines.
No, I did not. I don't fly Spirit for work. I only fly Spirit if I need to have some last minute things go on. So outside of that, no, absolutely not. I flew American.
One of our regulars to the show, or you see Paddington up there in the corner. It just became a thing. He was a regular on our show, and so he had an unfortunate experience recently. I'd like to share that. Poor guy. But yeah, he was did not have very good success on the airline. So,
but interesting enough, Spirit Airlines takes a bad rap, but Spirit Airlines seems to be the only person to put Paddington in pants.
That's true. Paddington does not like to wear pants, so he stepped up for the occasion. So
you know what I saw pulling up to the gate today? TWA. They still have some TWA models.
Oh, wow.
It's the third one I've seen this year. I don't know what's going on, but they still have a few old TWA models with the American sign. It's hilarious, man.
That's hilarious. I didn't think that was possible. Okay, cool.
Me neither.
Our local airport here in Melbourne, which is actually stepping up, they're starting to air some additional.
Not sure that's an airport.
Stuff. Yeah, it's really not. It's
the place to land planes. One of the airports.
Yes. But I wanted to ask before we get into the good stuff, I'd like to start with the book, of course. But right before that, just got to ask you, because it's crazy that it's 6 years to the date that you had came here to Melbourne, Palm Bay, Florida for the Super Bowl, or the big game, if we're not allowed to say Super Bowl, whatever. But this year, for me at least, I don't have a dog in the race. But Patriots, Seahawks, your thoughts kind of going in as a Cowboys fan. Where do you stand on the spectrum here?
Well, as a Cowboys fan, our year's next year.
Right, of course.
but no, I don't have a dog in this race, man. I love what they did over there with the Pats and how they have Drake May is a beast. I love what Stephon Diggs is doing. Their defense is amazing. They got a lot going on over there. And honestly, if I had to pick one before, like a few days ago, I would have went with Seattle, just because what Sam Darnold went through. I thought that kid was done. I thought he was. There's no way he's coming back after Charlotte, and for him to go last year to the Vikings, make them look good, and then come in and just sling it this year all the way to the big game. I was for him. But now that they did Belichick the way they did, and I'm not a Patriots fan at all, but if Belichick is not first ballot, I don't know what.
I know, it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Crazy.
It's just dumb. I'm sorry. It's just dumb.
It is.
I thought I saw something that somebody said they couldn't remember if they voted for him. If that's the case, then
I'm 95%. Yeah, right, man. This is the thing that I don't like about the Hall of Fame, is that it's like this little gatekeeping entity where 100%. They keep the guys in check, and if you answer the questions the way we like it, then we'll reward you at the end. And if you don't, if you're TO, we'll make you third ballot. And if now Belichick, they had a scandal. They had two. One wasn't on him, but all coaches, they were all doing that. Like everybody.
100%. You ain't cheating. You ain't trying. I mean, listen. Yeah. When it comes to, especially off the field, but listen, I played, collegiate football. I played offensive line. I held on every play. Let me repeat that. I held every play. Most linemen do, and the other linemen lie. But the referees will tell you, if your hands are in front, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
If they're turning, you got to let go. Now I'm going to call you on holding.
Right.
So what they got stuck with, whether it's Spygate or whatever, not making permission for it, do your time. But here's the thing. When you do your time, now you're done, you move on.
Right. 100%, man. That's it. I mean, it makes people lose trust in it, because what they're going to do that to Brady, the country will explode if they do that to Tom Brady. So they better get it right, because it's crazy.
Robert Kraft, and I live up here in Cape Cod, but I grew up a Jet fan, had Jet season tickets for 25 years. Call me knucklehead, I am. but I'm no fan of the Patriots. But come on, we're going to pretend that Roger Kraft didn't get 6 Super Bowls, and he's not a
Crazy.
first ballot. Come on. I mean, just it's nonsense. And I'm sorry because it really bothers me. Because here's the thing, and I spent enough time covering sports. From the booth, I coached Division I college softball, coached Division III college football, played college football, coached high school, high level, head coach. I've been in the booth covering Major League Sports. The same people that talk about the performance-enhancing drugs or this or that, they're sitting in watching a game, having downers, uppers, drinking scotch while they're working, and there before the grace goes high.
Yeah.
Cast the first stone, man.
You know what I think we need to do politically, sports wise, all this. We need to invest in a camera crew to follow around
100%.
the journalists. Like, let's follow them to the bar,
100%.
follow them all these places, and I guarantee you, they will stop and get it straight immediately if they were called out.
I mean, shame on me. There was an American tennis player, a young woman, who walked off the court graciously, nice, whatever. And what did she do? She had a human moment and slammed the racket on the ground. And some news reporter videotaped it of it. And, I'm sorry, this is a private moment. This is a private moment, and where people can feel themselves and be themselves.
Yeah.
Whether as a comedian, whether you had a good set or didn't set, let people be themselves. I mean, come on.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm today.
That's okay. I have to share one, but then we're going to talk about the book right after this. But this was outrageous. I have to share this. Speaking of the Super Bowl, as you know, cost goes up. It's 2026. We understand all that. But I saw this today, and it just blew my mind. The average cost now is $8 million for a 30-second ad. I just and that there's going to be 2 or 3 that are actually decent. So that's just absurd. Had to share that.
They used to be good, man. That used to be my favorite part of it.
Oh,
now
100%.
it's just not even. People don't even listen to or watch the commercials anymore.
Nope.
No.
It used to be great.
Yeah.
That's when it's time for a chip change or walk outside, throw the football. Just
exactly.
So,
yeah.
But so of course, one of the many reasons we are here. We want to make sure we get to talk about this book, The How Ain't None of Your Business, Learning to Trust Heaven's Timing and Life's Unexpected Detours. And I know that there's so much that goes into, obviously to this whole production. So first thing I wanted to ask you, and Darren, feel free to jump in anytime with questions relating to it, but the title of the book, that hooked me right from the beginning, but wanted to see how that became settled as the title, if that was a simple decision or if you kind of went back and forth, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no. So, man, I will never forget this. I was at church. This is when I was living in LA still, at Long Beach, Antioch, Church of Long Beach. And I feel so bad because I forgot the brother's name. He was such a good dude, always with a smile on his face, everything. So I told him, I was like, yeah, man, I feel like I'm supposed to write this book. And he's like, oh, what's it about? And I started telling him. And I was like, we're worried about how, and we shouldn't be worried about how. We should, really be focusing on our purpose. And it's like, if we were spitballing, standing there, and I said something, I guess, that piqued his mind, and he goes, yeah, because the how ain't none of your business. I was like, that's it. And he was like, oh, so we were just standing there going, oh. And so I feel bad because I want to reach out to him, but I can't remember his name. I got to find him and let him know, like, hey, the book's out. We kept talking about it, but I mean, after COVID, people just kind of separated and lost touch. So, but that's how it came. It was nothing that I was just like sitting there and just brilliantly thinking of it. I was spitballing with the guy. He said it. And I was like, that's it. So
when you know. Yep.
There it
awesome.
is.
Yep. And hopefully you guys will connect at some point. Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
Will work out. you know, and then in terms of the whole production, obviously, you know, there's probably certain goals you have to set for yourself. Okay, I want to get this many pages done. I want it to be about this length and this deadline up against that time. Did you kind of have an idea? Okay, when this is becoming a thing, I kind of have an idea of about how long I want this to be, or that sort of thing, or was it, you know what, until I've emptied my mind here, I'm just going to keep going? And did you have certain goals like that?
Yeah, man, I had no idea. Okay, I'm very good with communication, very good with jokes, but writing is a new space. I haven't really written anything since I was in what, second, third grade. So in from kindergarten through second, I won in the state of Illinois all the Young Arthur Awards.
Oh, nice.
Won all of those, and then my mom decided it wasn't just good enough for me to win. She wanted to help, and then I lost. So, so, so basically, I had the gift, but you know, after that L I took in third grade, I just didn't bounce back. So I never thought about writing anything, right? And it's funny. I think that's why I was like, man, I lost, and so God kind of brought all that back to my remembrance. Like, no, this is something that I gifted you with. So when I went into it, I was just like, all right, because this wasn't something I wanted to do. But I'll just say that I didn't want to write a book. It was furthest thing from my mind, but I felt the leading of the Holy Spirit to do so. So I did. And the first edit of the book, I went in blind. But I did pay for great editing. First, I sent it to a couple friends. They were like, this is awful. I don't know like what you would ever do with this. And then I paid a lot of money, sent it to a company in New York. And when we did the editing session, she's like, I mean, maybe when you can use this for when you decide to write a book. And so it was like, and at that point, it was like 65 pages. And I told my friend, I was like, because I was thinking when it turns into book form, it'd be like 130 pages, but no, it's really that it was really only like 65 at the time. And then I was telling my friend, he was like, oh, how long is it? I was like, oh, it's like 65 pages. And he goes, oh, does it come with pictures? So I'm like, man. And so what I did is I had to remove myself, remove my pride, and just say, what am I trying to say here? And what do I want to do? And so what I did, man, I went back to the drawing board. I took 90% of and it was hard because, when you go through the editing profile on the right, the questions are deep that she's asking, and she's making you think like, why are you saying what you're saying right now? And so I had to I was rereading. I was like, this is awful. And I agreed finally with everyone. So I shaved it down to 53 pages. So definitely color book worthy, right? So I shaved it all the way down. But it made me think, I was concerned about the shortness of the book. But when I took class, I actually took class as a comedian like 3 years in from a gentleman named David Arnold, rest his soul. He passed a few years back. One of the best teachers in the game. And what he taught me was to shave the fat, right? And so when you're telling a bit, you want to get that bit so clean and so tight that there's no wasted space there. And so that's what I did with the book. I was like, I don't want to just make this book redundant just so that I can have 150 pages. Because I've read some books like that. It's like, you said the same thing in chapter 3, chapter 6, chapter 9. So just like, if you want, you can get to the end and read it again. But I found that doing things that way works best for me. And it came out really good, man. So the second time we go back to the same company, because I spent good money for really good people, and I had the same editor. And I'm just waiting for her to just lay it on me. I'm just thinking she's just gonna whoop me. And she goes, outside of the 2 notes that I gave you, you're ready to go. This is good. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. And so I just, finally I put it up there, put it on, and 3 days in, to my surprise, it was #1 new releases on Amazon. So
Love that.
Man, that's
Love
all
that.
God, man, because it's not me. My mom ruined that in second grade. So.
Because I think, and it looks like Darren, you had a question, but what I was just going to say was it probably took, though, like the extra quote unquote fluff pages to be able to get it to that. Because I think if you would have started with just the 53, then, like, there could have been much more expanded here. But I think starting with more and then condensing, I think was wound up being probably the way to go. But Darren, go ahead.
Well, it's more of a question. I enjoy speaking to authors because I think it is such a skill. Anything artistic or where you express anything, it really motivates me to find out why and how and just kind of get into it. And a lot of the authors I've spoken to, they say you got to get to a point where you go through these phases, right? And then it's not linear. It's okay, you have this passion, you want to do something. Now how do I do it? And then you feel good about something and it gets, like you were just talking about, it gets struck down. But you have to have the confidence, like you mentioned a couple of times, that you hire the right people. And you have to trust in their feedback while at the same point standing on your principles. And that's not an easy balance to work through. If you can talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not an easy balance. I think there were some things lost in translation culturally too. So when we were going back and forth, I'm like, well, so like 10% of it, I was like, no, they're going to understand what this is. You may not, but absolutely not. But it took a lot of humility to just say, yeah, okay. I hear you. I was basically being a jerk here. Okay, I get it. And yeah, man, and she's from like Boston, so she was no joke. She's no, like she's a Pats fan. So she's I'm sure excited. And so it's kind of like, man, this being about baseball podcast, it's like being in that batter's box. You're not hitting 700, 800, 9. If you hit 300, you're Hall of Famer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you have to just know that you're gonna miss a lot, right? But if you'll stick with it, eventually you're gonna connect. And I think that's what happened with this book. Like I was missing and I was trying to hit a home run every time. And then I had to learn, like, okay, you know what? Instead of trying to make this major point here, I'm gonna get to first. And then we'll get to second, then we'll get to third, and eventually we'll round it out. And that's what happened. And then I got in a groove. And honestly, man, the confidence in the writing, I can't say that I was confident until Amazon said it was #1. I mean, I had people say, this is good, but I don't know what that means. I don't have anything to compare it to. I'm used to tell joke, the people laugh, immediate feedback. This is a different beast.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I forget what I was watching it recently, an interview with somebody. I just go down these rabbit holes and I love it. And it was somebody who early in their career was very happy and prideful in a good way with their work. And they had these very well-meaning people kept coming up to him. And he was a screenwriter. And an actor, and they were like, "Hey, great backdrop, wonderful, wonderful cinematography, wonderful." And then he realized
he didn't know what any of that meant.
They're certainly not talking about my script.
Yeah,
it's your baby, right?
Right.
But that's kind of my long-winded way of saying really two things. There's an author. She's on a motivational circuit a lot. She's been on I've talked to her a couple of times on podcasts, named Trish Richards. And it's interesting. She wrote this book that when she sat down conceptually, it's for women to become empowered in business in a way that they're able to do certain things. And I remember I texted her and reached out to her and said, that might be who you're targeting, but the truth is your book really speaks to more my demographic of people who are older, past the age of 55, 60, who are still in the marketplace and still have skill sets and have to change those skill sets. And she didn't even realize, and not like, yay, me, look what I came up with. Rather, there's a whole different market. So my question to you is, when you thought about who's going to read your book, who is reading your book, and any surprises?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I thought about who read the book, who was going to read the book, that actually came from the very first editing session when she was trying to figure out, like, why did you write this? Why am I talking to you? And at the very end of the session, she goes, well, who do you have in mind with this book? And I tell her, I'm like, well, I worked in LA County jails for 5 years teaching life skills. And I would notice that, when they were about to get out, they would be nervous. And that confused me, but I didn't realize they were going back into the same situation. So I kind of wanted to encourage folks like that maybe haven't, made the right decision all the time. And then she was like, now that makes sense. She was like, that's what you need to focus on. And so I begin to focus kind of on that, even though I don't mention the jails in the book. But it's been interesting because the feedback that I've gotten have been from some folks that have been inside before. It's been from folks that haven't made all the right decisions, like myself, without having to go to jail or anything like that, right? And then it's some folks that I really didn't. Sometimes we look at people's lives and we think they're perfect, based on whatever we think society says this is what you should have, right? And you never know people's background and their story. So I'm getting people reading it that I deemed as, they wouldn't enjoy this book, and they absolutely loved it. And so it's kind of reaching people all around the board, giving them encouragement to keep going and to keep fighting and to keep figuring out what it is they were placed here on earth to do. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my last book question I've got to ask, because I don't want to give away too much, obviously, because they got to read the book, right? Like, so that's not what this is for. We want people to read it and stuff. And we do have one that watches Amazon, correct? Was the answer to that? Where can we get a copy of this book?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. It's Kindle, and you can get a paperback.
Or paperback. Okay. Because to be transparent, I was never a book reader, never wanted to be. I actually attended Life Christian University 2 years ago, and I kind of had to read books as part of like passing the class. And each one would be its own. Would tackle it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm almost to the end. And then I remember, have you ever heard of the Strongitz Concordance? It's like the massive book where you kind of research all of it. Well, there was the book, like this massive, like encyclopedia sized book. And I was like, how am I going to get through this thing? So it definitely challenged me because, I would definitely be an online reader or skimmer and stuff. But I finally had to push it. And now I actually enjoy getting into a book here and now and then. Not, I'll never prefer it to, watching the movie or anything like that, if there is one. But I've been getting better at that. But I do have a question though. If we had to give a little bit away, if I'm a bear at sea and I'm reading this book, what is the meat and potatoes that's getting across through this book?
Yeah, so the meat and potatoes are basically, I feel like in my life especially, and I talk about a lot of my life in the book, I spent so much time worrying about how Eileen worried about how I would get things done, right? And when you do that, when you're worried about how, it's kind of difficult to get to the why.
Right.
So when you're, let's just use finances for instance, because everybody uses that. Like, let's say you feel like you want to start a business. Well, if it takes $100,000 to start this business and you only have 20, and you spend most of your time worrying about, well, how will I attain this money? You're never going to get to the point where you're actually in that business and building it, because you have to worry about the why and focus on your purpose for doing it. And I've learned through hardships, through there was times I didn't have money, I try to go gamble it up. I do all these silly things, and the money was sitting right there in other ways than what I could see. So oftentimes I would make that mistake, and then God would show me right here, I had the money. I just told you to go do this. So if we kind of take our hand out of it and just focus on what it is that we want to do, the how, the money, the whatever it is you need will come. It's just take that step of faith and just go. And so that's the meat and potatoes of the book.
And I know, Mike, we're going to move because we're flying through this already, but I just love this topic because, Aaron, I didn't know that you worked with people who are in the penal system and stuff. And that's where my heart is. And I can see this for your book.
Yeah.
Because, I used to run sales organizations for close to 4 decades, and now I work in nonprofit, and I remember there were some of these businesses, and I won't go on a tangent. And I have my good friend here, my partner in watching movies, DJ, on this. We've talked about this, where somebody does a knucklehead move, whether it's steal a car or whatever, or they're selling stuff they shouldn't be selling, and they grew a big business from it. And I remember telling people when I worked at Dun & Bradstreet, and I had some very good people there who would acquiesce and listen. Well, we can't hire somebody that's got a record. This is somebody who knows how to sell.
Yeah.
This is somebody who's not afraid to get into a conversation that ends with a signature. And, and sometimes you want to tell these people who are coming out of that life, she or he, or whoever they are, or identify with it, listen, you have great skill sets. I don't care that you go to the Ivy Leagues. You have some skill sets that are marketable.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Along those lines, there was a company that came in the jails called Defy. And so what they noticed is that the guys that went to Harvard and Yale, they had the same level of intellect as the guys that were in the jail. They just had a different path and a different book to show them how to get to where they're going. So they were trying to find guys with great potential to start businesses with, because they knew they had the know-how. Because people don't realize, you want to talk about people selling things, right? I think we know what we're talking about. The work ethic it takes to do that. These guys are, Young Jeezy says 5 a.m. on the corner clocking. That's 100%. That's a line, right? So when you think about that, most people aren't getting up at 4 to get somewhere at 5 and stay there all day until the sun goes down and do it again over and over and over. So
listen, we all might giggle to this story, and I'm not making light.
No,
I have a gentleman that was in a documentary I made, who, when he was in the middle of his addiction and he was selling, he actually was jumping over a fence to go to a trap house to buy, and got impaled on the fence. He was impaled on the fence, and it kind of went through up to his clavicle. And I bring this up because people who going to work or whatever just passed him by, and it was another drug dealer or addict who actually pulled him off the fence a half hour later, and he said, "Thank you, I got to go sell my stash." And he went to work that day to sell his stash.
Wow. Yeah. That's wild, man. That's wild.
It just left me dumbfounded. Wow. Yeah, that's all you could say. I'm sorry, man.
In comedy, I've met people. So I've actually, and it's okay for me to say, the real Freeway Ricky Ross, not the rapper, the guy that took the name. The guy's a lovely guy. I met him. I had him do my comedy show. He got out. He changed his life around, but still possesses the same work ethic and know-how.
Yes.
It just amazes me. So we can't discount people, because I think, man, if I say this all the time, if my father had given me a fifth of Hennessy and drugs at 12 years old and said, go sell it, I'd be in jail too. So
100%. 100%. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is something unexpected came up, family emergency thing that I have to apparently take care of. So I would like to see if you guys could continue while I go take care of everything. Will be fine. I just have to do this now. But if you guys can continue, I did want to kind of just tackle a little bit about the your cruise experience. I know you,
let's talk cruises.
Kind of on and off kind of that. So if I'm able to get back on before, but probably not. But I'll make sure that Eileen can end it here on my end once everything's wrapped up. But I definitely want to get to that. And so apologies that I have to go do this. But
emergencies are emergencies, man. Hope everything's good.
Yeah, same.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So, as we segue to cruises, so I mean, I remember, last time we spoke, we talked about, you work in the cruises, and if you can recap for our audience, and we get a lot of people actually the next day, the day after, even though we go live all the time. How did first off get started on cruises, and are you now on a new cruise line? How does all that work?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting. I hope everything's good. So cruises are they're not something that any comedian ever says, I want to do a cruise. Nobody says that. You kind of fall into it. And so for me, with having had a family, although, we're not together, I still have children. Sure. It's the best, most consistent income for someone who is not famous. So you've got your, now I'm booked into 2027, right? So you've got your dates, what you're going to be making, where you're going to be. And it takes a load off because, otherwise you're in the club scene, which doesn't pay as much. Normally you're driving. I know a comedian who drove from LA to Atlanta, hitting up different clubs over and over. And then he stayed in Atlanta for 2 months and came back. And that was the only way he could make a living doing it if you're not famous yet. So cruises, no one says they want to, but the interesting thing about cruises is now it's a desired destination for comedians. Pre-COVID, they said that cruises were the places that comedians go to die. That's what it was called. Yeah. So now, cruises, everybody who was like, oh, you're doing cruises? Now they're calling me like, hey,
that's right.
Who's your agent? Yeah. So
could you get me? Well, it's interesting too, because, obviously I'm older than you, and I have such an affinity for the craft of being a comedian like you are. And it's so hard because you need to do a grind. And I think Mike talked about it earlier. We talk about hustle, right? I mean, you got to sell your own tickets.
Yeah. Yep.
You got to sell your, it's tough, but you got to really love what you do. And and just because everybody, and this is another business model, right? People, take notes, because everybody's saying, no, this is the way to go. Hit the comedy clubs, and that's lovely, and you give that credit, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go hit the cruise ships.
Yeah,
it's a little more steady, or whatever the case may be. And now they want to do what you're doing. And that's how we learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
When did you fall in love with wanting to be a comedian?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think there's always been that love there. So, like, for instance, I always tell this story. I was like a really good kid in terms of whatever my parents said, I did it. The only thing that I was disobedient in is that when I was a kid, like 5, 6, 7 years old, they would say, you better not be watching Def Jams. And I would watch Def Comedy Jams. And I could understand the premise, setup, punchline like I was an adult, though. So I always understood it. And so I've always been in love with it. I used to make people play like Def Jams or in Comic View at lunch in 7th grade and all kind of stuff. But I fell in love with it. My buddy, I did like a couple Mr. Cougar pageants or whatever in college. And I killed it because I didn't care and I was just trying something out. So one day, maybe 5 years later, I'm in LA and my buddy's like, hey, you love comedy, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you should go full time with try it out. I'm like, yeah, like I was doing this once a month thing. That was my friend. She's having her 50th birthday party and they need a host. She's paying $300. At that time, $300
Right.
was great for. I was like, what? Absolutely. Now it's like, don't call me.
Yeah.
But back then it was amazing. So I went, did it, killed it, fell in love, and made a decision right there. I'm going full time. And the next 3 months for me sucked. I was awful. I couldn't make anyone laugh, but it was already in me, and I was just like, you know what? I want to do this, so I'm just gonna figure it out. And we did. So,
I mean, I've heard a couple of people kind of compare it. We talked baseball before, right? To a batting swing. Like your swing could be off just a minute, and the delivery or the timing is just, or the placement of the choke, or yeah, it's really, you got to choreograph and everything, and you got to be up, and it's not easy. I remember listening to Conan O'Brien talk about when he met John Candy. He was very, very young, and he invited John Candy to the club that they were in at a school. And he mentioned to John Candy that he wanted to try to be a comedian. He goes, well, then don't do it. He goes, you got to do what you do. You got to jump in. And you got to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it.
You can't half-step.
Can't half-step it.
So I was listening recently to David Spade and talked to Mark Maron, and they were talking about something a couple of comedians said. And a couple of comedians were like, I would never go to and listen to another comedian because I might pick up their act by osmosis. I don't mean to. And then there are others that say, no, I like to go to support each other. So where do you find yourself?
Yeah, so when it's live, I love to go watch live comedy, watch comedians, just the camaraderie of it, man. It makes you feel like you're in the ball club,
Yeah, of course.
Like you got a team every time you go. Any city you go to, you're a part of that team. However, I understand what they're saying. Like, I won't watch a lot of specials because that can rub off on you in a way that you're like, wait, because I've had several times where I had to call a comedian and say, hey, I've got this bit about this, but it sounds like you. Is this, do you have a, and then they'll be like, yeah, that's my bit. My bit goes like, I'm like, okay, all right, that's what that is.
Well, that is such professional courtesy. That's great.
Yeah, I don't believe in taking. I mean, listen, I think that each person, just in the world, is just gifted. If they would tap into their giftedness, they've got their own story, their own stuff. I don't need to be taking it from anyone else. And that's what helped me early when I took David Arnold's class. I used to just do funny general topic stuff, but that stuff can be hacky because everybody pretty much thinks the same. And so he got me to write about my life. And so that I only come from my own personal stories. So, I mean, you can steal it if you want to. And I have had some bits stolen and put on TV and a couple have gone viral. But, I absolutely know where it's from. And the ones that were taken and went viral, they were too general. So you can't take my life story.
Right. That's true. To what your point you were saying was, I just remember to listen to Tim Allen recently, and he said that he tries not to go unless it's live for the same reason. And he told this great story that I forget who was his opening comic, and they got along great. And they would sometimes do each other's bits just, because you're on long, tours and on purpose, and we have some fun. And one day, Tim Allen's wife said to him that you're starting to sound in your delivery like your opening act.
Wow.
So he wasn't even stealing his jokes. It was just from that osmosis, right?
Wow.
Just the delivery. And he watched the tape, and he was like, she's right.
Yeah.
You don't notice that, right?
Wow.
It happens.
And that makes sense because Tim Allen does a show. I've gone a couple times at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. And I was wondering why, like, he just goes up there, no one else. and he does the whole thing every week. And I'm like, why is why isn't he having an opener? Why isn't why isn't there a lineup? But that could be why, because he got too comfortable. Yeah, it happens.
So give us a little without disparaging any cruise lines in the general of this or that. Tell us, like, do they treat the performers with respect? Are there ones that are more respectful than others?
I will say this, because like you said, let's just be positive. Royal Caribbean gets it. I'll say that. Royal, just all around the board, like whether you're taking a cruise, whether you're an entertainer, they get it. Now, they will be in your pockets, but they get it, right? Everybody knows you got to have money to be on Royal. But they totally get it. They treat you like a professional. They treat you like a grown-up. They don't, follow you around, monitoring you. I will say I have had some other experiences on other lines that have been quite different. Not every line, but some of them. There's one that I told my agent, well, there's two that I'm like, never again. Don't even send me back there. Like these people are, and the shows, it really stinks because for us comedians, it's about the people, the audience.
Sure.
But they can treat you so poorly sometimes that you don't want to do that ship anymore because you don't want to deal with that. It's like, man, you don't. And a lot of it comes from a place of jealousy because on a ship, there's a pecking order.
Of course.
And here I come waltzing in there. I'm only on there for a week. They have to be on there for 6 to 9 months. Everyone wants to talk to the act or the entertainer.
Of course.
And so sometimes they treat you like, well, we're going to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible, but go up there and be a star. And that it puts a bad taste in your mouth. But at the same time, man, it's a blessing because it's humbled me in a way that my expectations aren't what they used to be. And we should all have expectations for our job or anything we buy, but they weren't these, I deserve this, You get out of that mindset and then you just realize I'm here to focus on the people and the check. If I can do that, I'll be just fine. So
why do you think we as a culture are so antagonistic toward other success?
Man, it's I feel like there's always been jealousy since the beginning of the world. It started out with Cain and Abel, right? But I feel that social media has really added to that. Because there's good parts of it, right? We can sit here and do a podcast, and that's great. But when you sit around and go on Instagram and just watch the highlights of people's lives all the time, you begin to start feeling a certain way about yourself and not even realizing that these are only the highlights. These people aren't showing you the rough patches. I know people with millions of followers that are going through it. That are not having a great life, if you will. And so I think it's just a perception of what you think someone else has. And now you have access to see it on a daily basis. So then you start treating people based on what you think they have, what you think they deserve. Now you're watching their pockets. And that happens so much in sports because these guys get paid so much money, but it's like you go to the game. That's why they get paid this money. You watch the game. That's why they get it's supply and demand. So I've never understood that. I'm grateful I don't have a jealous bone in my body, but a lot of people unfortunately feel that way deep down inside.
Last time we spoke, did I ever share with you my Chubby Checker story?
No.
And I'll just make it quick, but it just resonated quickly in what you were talking about. So people have this, kind of an arc to their careers. And this was in the 80s. And by that time I was already doing private security for people like yourself in the entertainment industry. And I was always involved in it and trying whatever, and I understood it. And so long story short, Chubby Checker was, what place I was doing security was the performer for that day.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up, and people are like, oh, this Chubby Check, a big thing,
Huge in the 80s. Yeah.
Huge back then. So especially back then. And long story short, he has this robe on. He's in backstage, open amphitheater, small place in Brooklyn. It's the last of the beach clubs. And I'm the nobody, literally nobody in a good way. Like he knows I'm his personal security for the day. And he's like, hey, is there any place to eat? You got a concession stand? I was like, Mr. Check. He goes, no, call me Chubby or whatever. I said, listen, you're in Brooklyn. You should have some real pizza,
Yeah.
Not a hot dog from a concession stand. So I take him so I go and get a pizza from this place right across the street under the L, Coney Island, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I told him I wish I could have got some Nathan hot dog. Anyway, so I give it to him, and then I know it's not to sit and stare at him, gawk at him. My job is to just stand outside and let him be. And he starts reading the paper. And he goes, hey, would you mind sitting with me? And it was a human moment.
Mm.
And people don't understand it. I thought it's like when you're a comedian trying to make it, or a musician trying to make it,
Mm-hmm.
or an artist trying to make it, and then years later, you're trying to hold on.
Yeah.
And we just sat there, and I said, yeah, things going whatever, this and that. It wasn't a sob story. He's like, I leave from here, I go to Cleveland, I do this and this. I'm in the middle of my tour, and boy, it's not easy.
It's not. It's lonely. And that's what people always say to me, and I'm grateful, so I understand it. You must have a great job. You're on a cruise. You're on vacation, and the reality is I'm not on vacation, and I'm watching you and your family and your children have a good time while I'm on FaceTime with my kids in the room, by myself. So it's a very, but again, there are worse problems to have, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, 100%.
So you can't really relay that to people. No one really wants to hear that. So you just keep it inside. But you do have to build a community that you can call, that you can talk to, because if you do not do that, that's why a lot of entertainers end up on drugs. They end up on all these things because they have to figure out a way to keep going. Because so for instance, last year, my 2026 or 25, and it was a blessing. But if I'm honest, it came from a lot of mistakes I made in 24. So I had to work a lot. Mm-hmm. I worked 39 weeks, and it got to the point by October, I started having small panic attacks. I never had those in my life. Didn't even know what that felt like until it started happening, because you're in hotel to ship, home maybe a day or two, hotel to ship, to ship, to ship, to plane, to hotel, to plane. Yes. And eventually, you don't even know where you are or what you're doing or why. You feel like you're in the Matrix. But on the other side, there's people that would love to be able to work, and so I just take it all in stride, and I'm grateful for it. I know that I'm built for it. Not everyone is. And so I just take it one day at a time, and just, I have people that I can lean on when I'm feeling like Chubby,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's real. It's a real thing.
So before I let you go, because we got to end soon, and I love this. You can tell I could talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah, sure.
And I love the book and the comedy. And what's next for you? Where are you going to be for the next year?
Yeah. So, and I don't want to go too far back, but last time I was on, I think I was leaving comedy for ministry, and so. Yeah, and that lasted about 4 months. And the reason why is because a year before that, actually, the Father told me my calling, which was to the unchurched, people who may not ever step foot in a church or do any of that. And so in that 4 months, I was like, if I'm called to the unchurched, why am I trying to just go to the church? Because I was actually reading a study that back in, I believe it was 2008, about 49% of people went to church, as opposed to the 50s where it's about 75% of the people. And post-COVID, I'm pretty sure that 49% is way lower. And so I think God is smart. He understands that, not people are not going for whatever reason they don't go, and they need to be still reached. And so what I'm doing is focusing on reaching people through the gifts that he's given me. And interestingly enough, man, I've been struggling with this the past couple months, how to word it, but just flat out, I can't necessarily call myself a clean comedian anymore. I talk about, more adult topics, more risque. I meet the people where they are, but it allows me to speak truth in small spurts. Like, for instance, last night I'm on stage and we're going in. We're talking about some good stuff. And then I sit down and I always, before I go, I say, Lord, that let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. And then I got him here. And then all of a sudden I start talking about Apostle Paul on stage in a very short way, but they go from laughing hysterically to leaning in, listening like, I can't believe he's talking about this right now. And I mean, I've had people come up afterwards for prayer. I've had people in tears, and I'm just doing my thing. And I used to be so worried about, well, if I say this, I might destroy my my witness. But at the end of the day, man, people are people, and you'd be surprised how a lot of people talk when they're not around their church friends. And so I just meet them where they are, stay true to who I am, just be myself. I'm not dropping F-bombs or calling women bees, but we're talking about some stuff, man. And so my goal for the next year is to now build up my social media following. This morning when I got off the ship, I was just telling a friend, he's 6'6", big dude, big brother, man. He calls my name. He goes, Aaron, I'm trying to get on the shuttle, get to the airport. And I walk up to him. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? And he just stares at me for like 3 seconds. And now I'm like, am I going to have to fight this dude? Like, what are we doing right now? Like, I want to keep my job, right? So he just stares at me and he goes, you're funnier than most people that are doing stadiums right now.
Don't you love that?
And so I'm like, man. And then they were just loving on me, the crowd. And it made me think, I'm doing a disservice to myself and to the ministry that I'm trying to put out there if I don't do the social media work necessary. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking for a publisher right now for the book to get that message out. I'm wanting to get it into the jails, and I'm just really focused on actually getting some exposure on myself so that we can get this light out to where it needs to go.
Well, anyway, we can help. Anyway, I can help. I know a few publishers. I do.
Okay.
And I will send them your way. And I am a firm believer in what you're talking about. And, I look at my life and the way that I want to give the time that I have left, is very much the same way. I just, it's funny that Donalyn on our feed here, my quote unquote ministry is his ministry is just in the street. And it's real and it's ugly sometimes and it's good. And, but it's real. I mean, it's interesting. I did a social media post last week about, don't judge a good person that comes into the church early or leaves late or, whatever, this or that, doesn't kneel right or whatever the case may be, or just be happy they're there.
Right.
Focus on you. They may be going through it.
Yep. Absolutely.
They may be going through it. And they probably are, and just, what they need is you just to be there. I did a lot of work in recovery, and it really has taught me. Sometimes you just, Aaron, right? You just need to be present. Making somebody laugh, just making them laugh, making them feel like a person because that's who they are.
Right.
That's grace. That's grace. You don't expect anything from them. You don't want anything. You're just acknowledging their existence because they exist in the world. I love it.
That's right.
And Aaron, thank you for being our guest today. And
no problem.
We'll catch up to you down the road. And I'm really pleased to know you. And hopefully we can call you a friend and to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Darren. Thank you so much for having me. And I really love what you guys are doing and the success you're having. From being on here, this is my third time now, man. You guys are really doing it. So I'm 100% behind you.
Thank you, Aaron. And we're 100% behind you. Be well.
Awesome. Blessings.